Some cases stay with people because they are shocking. And then there are cases like this one, the kind that stay with people because they feel preventable. Because when you really look at what happened to 24-year-old Alexis Maki, it does not feel like a sudden tragedy that came out of nowhere. It feels like a story that was already moving in a dark direction. A story with warning signs, a story with fear, a story with emotional control, jealousy, and a final request that sounded small enough to seem manageable. And that is what makes it so devastating, because Alexis should still be here. On November 4, 2023, Alexis Maki went back to an apartment in New Baden, Illinois, that she had once shared with her ex-boyfriend, Emmet Metzger. She was not going back to fix the relationship. She was not going back because everything had suddenly become peaceful. She was not going back because she believed the breakup had magically become easy. She went back because real life is messy, because relationships do not always end cleanly, because practical ties can outlast emotional ones. And because in this case, there was one particular bond that kept the connection alive a little longer than it should have. A dog named Echo. And what happened after that would end Alexis's life. But before we get into that final day, I want to stay with Alexis for a moment, because she deserves to be known as more than just the victim in a heartbreaking case. Alexis Maki was 24 years old. She was a student studying radiology at Kaskaskia College. She also worked at Grit and Tonic, a bar in Belleville, Illinois, where people who knew her remembered her as warm, hardworking, and easy to love. She was deeply attached to her pets, too. Echo mattered to her. So did her cats, Scout and Honey. She was the kind of person who seemed to be building something real, a future with shape, direction, and purpose. And that is exactly why this case hits so hard. Because this was not the story of someone spiraling out of control. It was the story of a young woman trying to move forward with her life. She had plans. She had people who loved her. She was working. She was studying. She was trying to become the next version of herself. And somewhere along the way, that future became tangled up with someone who could not handle losing access to her. According to reporting after her death, Alexis and Emmet Metzger had broken up about a month before the shooting. But despite the breakup, they were still tied together in a very practical and dangerous way. They still shared the lease on the apartment. And if you have ever watched cases like this closely, you already know how important that detail can be. Because when a relationship ends emotionally, but not logistically, the danger does not always leave with it. There is still contact, still unfinished business, still a reason to come back, still an opening for manipulation. And by all accounts, this was not a healthy, calm situation quietly fading into the past. Alexis's mother later said Emmet was jealous, that he made Alexis's life miserable, that the breakup had not brought peace, only more tension. And when you hear that, you start to see the shape of this case more clearly. This was not some random explosion. This was the final point in a pattern Alexis had already been living through. What makes cases like this especially difficult is that the danger often does not look dramatic enough in the beginning. It can look like a controlling text, a jealous comment, a tense interaction, a demand for attention, an ex who keeps finding reasons to stay connected. And then one day, all of those smaller things stop feeling small. That is why this story matters, because by the time outsiders clearly see the danger, the victim has often been navigating it for much longer. And Alexis was. Before we go any further, if you follow true crime, because you believe stories like this deserve to be heard outside the biggest headlines, subscribe to the channel. Cases like this do not just deserve attention. They deserve context. Now, the final chapter of Alexis's life did not begin with a dramatic public scene. In fact, what happened next is chilling precisely because it sounds so normal at first. According to Alexis's mother, Emmet asked Alexis to come over and bring Echo, the dog they had adopted together, so he could see him one last time. Just listen to how harmless that sounds. One last time. That kind of phrase can do so much work in a toxic relationship. It sounds emotional. It sounds final. It sounds like closure. It sounds like someone asking for one final moment of decency before letting go. And when a shared pet is involved, it becomes even harder to refuse. Because it does not sound like a setup. It sounds like responsibility. It sounds like kindness. It sounds like the sort of thing a reasonable person might agree to, especially when they are trying to move on without creating more conflict. But Alexis had a bad feeling, and that detail has stayed with so many people who have followed this case. Her mother later said she had a bad feeling about Alexis going there. Alexis reportedly admitted she did not feel good about it either. And I think a lot of women listening to this know exactly what that means. That quiet, uneasy instinct. That sense that something is off, even if you cannot fully explain it. That internal voice telling you not to walk into a situation that feels emotionally unsafe. But real life is not lived with the clarity of hindsight. People do not get to see a dramatic red warning banner over a moment like that. They only get instinct, uncertainty, complication, the hope that maybe this will stay calm, the hope that maybe one last interaction can happen without everything falling apart. And that is the painful space Alexis seems to have been standing in. What makes this case even harder to process is that in the hours before Alexis was killed, there had already been another incident. According to later reporting, Emmet was involved in an altercation with one of Alexis's co-workers, Giovanni Venuti. Venuti said Emmet approached Alexis's car and punched him several times while he was near the passenger side window, leaving him with a chipped tooth and facial injuries. So by the time Alexis returned to that apartment, the emotional climate around Emmet was not calm. It was already volatile. It had already crossed into physical aggression. And still, the story kept moving. At some point on November 4th, Alexis went back to the apartment on Hanover Street in New Baden. Maybe she thought the visit would be quick. Maybe she thought she would bring the dog, get through one uncomfortable interaction, and leave. Maybe she thought she could manage it. But inside that apartment, Emmet Metzger made a series of choices that would end her life. According to prosecutors, he later told police that he retrieved a gun from a case in the bedroom, loaded it, and fired it at Alexis in the living room. That sequence matters. He got the gun, he loaded it, he came back, he fired. Those are steps, those are decisions. Those are actions with time between them. And Alexis never got to survive the outcome of those decisions. She was only 24. That number alone is enough to stop you. 24 is an age when most people still feel like life is just beginning to open. Careers are starting, plans are taking shape. People are still imagining the cities they might live in, the version of themselves they are becoming. The ordinary years they assume are still ahead of them. And Alexis lost all of that in one apartment, in one living room, at the hands of someone who had once been close enough to share a home with her. That is what makes this case feel so deeply personal for so many people. Because it was not random. It was intimate. And some of the most dangerous violence is cases involving. Ex-partners often reveal something very uncomfortable about control. Sometimes the breakup is not the end of the danger. Sometimes it is the moment the danger becomes most concentrated. Because for a controlling person, the loss of the relationship is not just sadness. It is loss of access, loss of influence, loss of possession. And when that kind of person feels control slipping away, what they do next can become terrifying. Alexis should not have needed perfect instincts to survive that. She should not have needed to interpret every warning sign flawlessly. She should not have needed to calculate whether one last visit was too risky. She should not have had to carry the burden of his jealousy carefully enough to stay alive. That burden was never supposed to be hers. And then came the detail that turned this from horrifying to unforgettable. After shooting Alexis, Emmet did not run. He did not disappear. He did not go into hiding. He drove to the New Baden Police Department. He picked up the phone and he called 911.
911, what is the address of your emergency?
I'm at the police station right now.
Okay, what police station?
New Baden.
Okay, what's going on?
I did something so bad. I need to be arrested, please.
What did you do?
Oh my God. Can I just be arrested, please? I did something terrible.
Can you tell me what happened?
Please arrest me, man.
Sir, What is
I
your
just
name?
come so, Emmett, I just come so far. Please arrest me.
Okay, stay on the line with me. Can you tell me what's going on? Where were you at last?
I was in my apartment, and oh my God. Can I please be arrested?
We're gonna have an officer.
Huh?
We're gonna have an officer come up there and speak with you. What's going on?
I'm unarmed. I shot my girlfriend. Oh my God.
You shot your girlfriend?
Yes,
What's the apartment? Where were you at? Give me the address now. Hey, sir, is she conscious and breathing?
No, I don't know.
Is there anybody else there?
I ran out. I'm in the police station right now. I'm not here.
Do you have the weapon, sir? Where's the weapon at?
I'm unarmed. I'm inside.
Okay, right now, I want you... Sir,
What?
sir, stay on the line with me. I'm going to give you some commands when the officer gets there, okay?
Okay.
Okay, until he gets there...
Tell him the guy put his hands out in front of him. He's not armed, but he is erratic.
Sir, we need to get some help. We need to get some help to your girlfriend at 121 East Hanover. Okay, sir, is there an apartment number? Okay, sir. Sir, come back to me. Hey, come back to me. Right, sir. The best thing you can do is talk to me so I can help your girlfriend.
I'm trying real hard right now. I'm unarmed, alright? I'm unarmed. Oh my God.
What is it? Is there an apartment like letter like A, B, C?
No, it's literally just one point. The door is wide, you know? Oh my God, why? What?
How many times did you shoot her?
Attention New Baden ambulance personnel, please proceed to 121 East Hanover, 122 East Hanover for a female who has been shot. The area is not secure. We do not know the status of the female.
Oh my God. Wait, there's no one in it. I'm out.
Sir, stay right here with me.
Attention New Baden ambulance personnel, please respond 121 East Hanover, 121 East Hanover for a female with a SW, unsure of the status of the female at this time. Scene is not secured. A PTL 203-1625 clear.
Sir? Sir?
What? I'm trying.
Okay, hey, let's take a deep breath and come back to me, okay?
I can't, man. No.
Yeah, you can. Okay, but now you can help her by helping me, sir. Sir, where is the gun at in the apartment?
What?
Sir, where at in the apartment is the gun so that nobody else gets hurt? It's in the living room. What kind of gun is it? It's a handgun?
What?
It's a handgun?
Yes.
Okay.
God.
Do I have any units going to this residence? Sam 14 County.
God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh no.
Any unit responding to 121 East Hanover. 14, there's going to be a 32 in the living room. He's unsure of the caliber.
Oh.
10-4. Okay, sir.
Yeah.
I just want, hey, just, can you come back to me, please? Okay. Sir? Sir?
Yeah.
Okay, you said correct?
Yeah. You got NB3, go ahead.
NB3, confirm that it's because he's hysterical. Okay, is there an apartment number or letter?
There's there's no, I don't know the letter. There's just a door. It's open.
It's an open
The
door?
door is supposed to be open. It's
Door
supposed
is
to be
open. Okay. Okay. All right. We've got 14 headed there. He told me that the 32 is in the living room, so
All right.
I'm going to disconnect with you.
In that call, according to reporting, he said, "I did something so bad. I shot my girlfriend. I need to be arrested, please." Another report says he also told the dispatcher, "I F-ed up." Those words are now some of the most chilling details attached to this case, not because they change what happened, but because they came after it was already too late. And that is the part that stays with so many people, because no matter what tone was in his voice, no matter whether it sounded like panic or regret or collapse, Alexis was already gone. He was still able to speak. She was not. He was still able to explain himself. She was not. He was still able to place the call that would become part of the record, and Alexis had no voice left at all. That contrast is one of the darkest parts of this entire case. Officers responded, and Alexis was found unresponsive at the residence. Emmet Metzger was arrested. And unlike some cases that spiral into endless speculation about what really happened, the broad outline here was painfully clear. This was not a mystery about the identity of the killer. It was a case about jealousy, access, escalation, and a breakup that turned lethal. The legal case moved forward. In April 2025, Emmet Metzger pleaded guilty to first-degree murder in Alexis Maki's death. And on June 9, 2025, he was sentenced to life in prison. Prosecutors said that while no sentence could bring Alexis back, they hoped her family and friends could begin moving towards some small semblance of closure. But even when you hear the sentence, even when you hear the word life, there is still a terrible emptiness at the center of it. Because the strongest sentence in the world still comes too late for the person who needed safety most. And that is why this case lingers. Because Alexis did not need justice after her death. She needed protection before it. That is the larger truth hiding inside stories like this one. Too often, people look back after a murder and say the signs were there. But what does that actually mean in real time? What do we do with jealousy when it is still being brushed off as relationship drama? What do we do with possessiveness when it has not yet become headline-worthy? What do we do with fear when the person feeling it is still trying to act normal, still trying to leave carefully, still trying not to make things worse? These are not easy questions, but they are the questions cases like this force people to confront. Because Alexis's story feels recognizable to a lot of people. Too recognizable. A woman leaves, an ex cannot accept it. He finds a reason to keep contact alive. He wraps that contact in emotion, in obligation, in something familiar, in something she cares about, and by the time everyone else clearly sees the danger, she is already gone. That pattern is why people keep talking about this case. Not because it is sensational, but because it reveals something painfully real about how violence can build quietly before it becomes visible enough for everyone else to name it. A shared lease, a shared pet, one last request, a bad feeling, one final visit, and then a future is erased. There is something especially heartbreaking about the role Echo played in this story, because Echo was not just a detail. Echo was trust. Echo was care. Echo was part of Alexis's emotional world. And that is what makes this detail feel so cruel. Something she loved became part of the path that led her back into danger. And that was not her fault. I think that needs to be said clearly. In cases involving ex-partners, there is always a risk that people start quietly auditing the victim's choices. Why did she go? Why did she answer? Why did she agree? Why did she not trust her instincts more strongly? Why did she not cut everything off sooner? But those questions can become deeply unfair because they shift attention away from the most important truth. The real question is much simpler. Why did he kill her? Why was his jealousy something she had to navigate? Why was his instability something she was expected to manage? Why are women so often left doing impossible emotional labor around dangerous men, trying to stay calm enough, careful enough, smart enough, and strategic enough to survive? Alexis Maki was not responsible for Emmet Metzger's choices. He was. and that is why her story deserves to be remembered with precision. She was not just the woman from the 911 call. She was not just the woman found in the living room. She was not just the victim named in court records. She was a daughter, a student, a bartender, a pet lover, a young woman with a future that should have kept unfolding. She should be remembered as Alexis. That, to me, is the sentence that matters most in this case. Alexis Maki should still be here, and maybe that is why stories like this continue to haunt people. Because even after the guilty plea, even after the life sentence, even after the headlines fade, that one truth remains unbearable. She should still be here. If you are watching this from somewhere outside Illinois, tell me where you are watching from. And tell me this too. When you hear a case like this, what stays with you most? The warning signs before the murder, or the fact that even after killing her, he was still the one able to speak? Because for me, that is one of the darkest parts of all. He got to make the call. Alexis never got that chance. And that is exactly why her story still matters.